mid-1940s, the most powerful nations of the globe were engaged in a top-secret race to develop the world's first atomic weapon. In the United States, the research program was known as the Manhattan Project, and at one point its scientific director, the now infamous J. Robert Oppenheimer, was faced with a seemingly insurmountable problem with his theory. As he and some of the Western world's most talented physicists convened to solve it, one of them muttered, "If only Ettore were here, he'd crack this one in no time." When Oppenheimer were asked who Ettore was, and why such a talented physicist wasn't right there with them, he was told that many years before, Ettore had gone missing under very mysterious circumstances, and that untold scientific progress had been lost with him. But just who was Ettore, and how did he disappear? Born in eastern Sicily on August 5th of 1906, Ettore Majorana grew up in a highly respected and highly wealthy Italian family. His father, Fabio Majorana, was a successful engineer who served as the director of the Catania Telephone Company and later as the Ministry of Communications General Inspector. As a result, the Majorana family moved around a lot during Ettore's childhood, meaning that he found it difficult to maintain steady and long-lasting friendships. He became a shy, thoughtful child who retreated into books, but by the time he started school, Ettore's parents noticed something incredible about him. At the tender age of just 7 years old, Ettore was able to multiply 3-digit numbers and extract square and cube roots using nothing but mental arithmetic. When presented with an equation that he found difficult, the boy would hide under a table or walk to a corner and face the wall, then concentrate intently until he excitedly called out the answer. Then, when Fabio tried teaching his son to play chess, he found Ettore exceeded all expectations. It was quite clear to his mother and father that they had something of a boy wonder on their hands, and as a result, they made the difficult decision to send him to an elite Jesuit boarding school in Rome. In 1923, when Ettore was 17, he earned the prestigious equivalent of a regular high school diploma, and at first, it appeared as if though he'd followed in his father's engineering footsteps. Yet after 4 years of study, and whilst on the verge of gaining an engineering diploma at the University of Rome, he suddenly withdrew from the course. His peers and professors were stunned, but to Ettore, his decision made all the sense in the world. Engineering was a respectable, enjoyable subject, but another had captured his imagination. Pursuing a career maintaining essential public infrastructure would no doubt lead to fortune and prominence, but the study of physics was the key to unlocking technological wonders, the likes of which mankind had never even dreamed of. History has since vindicated Ettore. Atomic energy is perhaps humanity's best short-term solution to the green energy problem, whilst nuclear weapons have brought about a period of relative, albeit uneasy peace among the nations of the globe. But, at the time, the study of particles was considered a somewhat frivolous pursuit. The late 1920s and early 1930s constituted something of a golden age for engineering, with the likes of the Empire State Building and the Golden Gate Bridge being constructed during this period. Many claimed that engineers were the architects of the current epoch, but what Ettore understood is that physicists would be the architects of the next one. On July 7th of 1929, Ettore submitted a thesis entitled On the Quantum Mechanics of Radioactive Nuclei. Following a careful analysis by university professors, it was accepted, given a grade of 110 out of 110, and awarded a distinction. 3 years later, during the late fall of 1932, Ettore obtained his university teaching diploma in theoretical physics. The examination board, which included pioneering Italian-American physicist Enrico Fermi, reported that Ettore possessed a complete mastery of theoretical physics. After receiving such a glowing review from Fermi himself, Ettore received a grant of 12,000 Italian lire in 1933 and was invited to Germany to work with another world-famous physicist, Werner Heisenberg. At the time, Heisenberg was based in the German city of Leipzig, which had become a place of pilgrimage for Europe's most talented theoretical physicists. So from January to June of 1933, the relatively boyish 27-year-old Ettore spent his days rubbing shoulders with his scientific idols. He talked unifying concepts with Friedrich Hund, discussed quantum mechanics with Rudolf Peierls. He even took a short trip to neighboring Denmark to attend lectures at the Copenhagen Institute. Knowing all that we do about young Ettore, his visit to Leipzig sounded like a dream come true. But upon his return to Rome in the autumn of 1933, Ettore seemed different. Over the years that followed, Ettore remained extremely tight-lipped regarding the project he was working on. The only things we do know regarding his academic career from that period is that he started to branch out into a multitude of other fields. As well as his continual study of theoretical physics, Ettore began to casually read up on economics, politics, and philosophy, particularly the work of a man named Arthur Schopenhauer. In January of 1938, Ettore began lectures on quantum theory at the University of Napoli. Over the course of the next 2 months, the university's payroll deposited Ettore's weekly wages into an account at the city's central bank. Yet over time, they noticed that he hadn't withdrawn a penny of it. Ettore was informed that he had a sizable lump sum awaiting him in the account, but claimed that he was well aware, and that his abstinence was entirely deliberate. Then on March 23rd of 1938, Ettore walked into the bank, cleared out his account, then purchased an overnight ticket onto a ferry bound for his native Sicily. Naturally, Ettore's disappearance caused a great deal of concern among his friends and colleagues. Less than 10 months later, Europe was engulfed in the flames of its second major conflict in 20 years, and while the mystery of Ettore's disappearance was overshadowed by the destruction of the German war machine, the man himself was never forgotten. A handwritten note later found in Palermo hotel room had commonly been attributed to Ettore. "I have only one wish," it read. "Do not wear black. If you must conform to custom, just wear some emblem of mourning, but not for more than 3 days. After that, remember me in your hearts, if you can, and forgive me." The reference to wearing black quite obviously alludes to the practice of wearing black clothing following the death of a loved one. But was Ettore telling his family not to wear black because he didn't deserve their grief, or was it because he wasn't actually dead? What's more, Ettore was a devout Catholic, meaning he would have considered taking his own life to be a mortal sin. Yet while he certainly wouldn't be the first or last religious person to take their own lives, it seems odd for a man like that to save up a vast sum of money before suddenly absconding with it. The theory is given credence by the fact that in the days following Ettore's disappearance, a representative of the Naples-based Jesuit Massimo church reported that someone matching Ettore's description showed up on their doorstep on the same night he supposedly vanished. The man appeared upset and asked the church to take him in before teaching him the ways of the priesthood. This representative was forced to inform the man that there was no long-term accommodation available, but that he could seek help elsewhere. The man then thanked him for his time and disappeared into the night. The representative of the Jesuit Massimo said that the man visited their church on the night of March 25th, the exact same day that Ettore wrote his first worrying letter to Antonio Corelli. It's reasonable to believe that he was in a state of distress at this time, and his deeply held faith meant a church may well have been one of Ettore's first ports of call in a crisis. But is it possible that, following this nocturnal visit to Jesuit Massimo, he remained sheltered and sequestered in some Sicilian monastery for the rest of his natural life without ever being tempted to reach out to friends and family? It seems like an incredibly unlikely outcome, and perhaps the most vocal critics of this theory are those that say Ettore was either murdered or kidnapped by some of the most powerful and most dangerous countries on Earth.